Alright, so continuing on, we are moving on to chapter 16, which is our last chapter. Section 1, which is dealing with trigonometric ratios and just kind of a basic intro to trig. That's going to help you move on when you get into like algebra 2, etc. So, basic trig ratios. So, first thing is that whenever we're dealing with trig, we're dealing with these ratios of a triangle. Okay, so the ratios are all based on the sides, and then they relate back into the angles. So if we have a right triangle, which is what we're going to be dealing with in this chapter, if we have a right triangle, we have three sides to it. We have the hypotenuse, and we have two legs. And so what we want to do is we want to list out all the possible ratios that can be created with these legs and hypotenuse. So here's all 6 of them. Whenever you have a triangle, you end up having 6 different ratios that can be formed. First one, we have 15 over 39, so we take this leg divided by the hypotenuse, 36 over 39, so the other leg divided by the hypotenuse. 15 over 36, so one leg divided by the other leg, 39 over 36, the hypotenuse over a leg, 36 over 15, so the reverse or the reciprocal of the previous one, leg over leg, and then 39 over 15, which is the hypotenuse over the other leg. Okay, so those are our 6 possible ratios that we can create when we're dealing with these right triangles. Okay, now each one of these are related to a trig function that we'll talk about. You got your sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. All these are related to those in some way. Okay, so with this one, I want you to find all 6 of the ratios, okay, all 6 of the fractions of this triangle. Okay, so all the ratios of side over side. List out all 6 of them. Okay, so when you do these, you can just keep them as their fractions. You don't have to reduce them if you can reduce them, but you don't have to. So our 6 would end up being 21 over 20, 29 over 20. So as you see, I picked the first group. I had this 20 as my denominator. The next one would be 20 over 29, 21 over 29. That one as my denominator for the second group. And the last group, I picked the last side as my denominator. 29 over 21, 20 over 21. Okay, so those would be your 6 possible ratios that you have dealing with these right triangles. Okay, so now, dealing with the sides, okay, when you're naming the sides, it's all kind of based on the angles. The first one is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the same no matter what. So the hypotenuse will always be the longest side. In this case, it's TU. Okay, TU is the hypotenuse of this triangle. Okay, it's the longest side. It's the one across from the right angle. Okay, it's easy to see. That is your hypotenuse. Okay, now the opposite side, depending on which angle you're talking about, you've got a different opposite side. So if we're talking about angle U, okay, which is down here. So if we're talking about this angle down here, the opposite side would be the one that doesn't touch it, which would be TS, the one across from it, which is written here. The adjacent side is the one that does touch it along with the hypotenuse, which is SU. Okay, so this is the opposite of U, this is the adjacent of U. But if we take this and then we go, okay, what about related to T? So related to this angle right here, now it's changed. The opposite side is now SU, and the adjacent side is now TS. Okay, so or ST. It all depends on which angle you're referencing when you're talking about your opposite and your adjacent sides. Okay, and that's important. So you just got to go, okay, this angle, which one's opposite? It's the one that doesn't touch it. Which one's the adjacent? It's the one that touches it along with the hypotenuse. Okay, but the hypotenuse never changes. It's always the same. Okay. All right, so that's the intro to this trig section that we have for this.